Thank you for joining us today. I'm Ben Dunlap, Vice President of Sales here at Map Your Show. And I'm joined today by my esteemed colleague, Justin Courtney, CEM. I should always put that after your name. And Justin is an exhibition specialist at the Society for Mining and Metallurgy and Exploration. And he's going to be talking to us a little bit today about we're going to talk about the overall sales process and really how it boils down to kind of best practices for on-site versus non-on-site space selections. Justin has a very interesting event that they do every year. I'm going to let him talk about it. But I've been to it. I've seen the sales office many a times, and they do it very well. If you want to see a well-oiled machine, this is a show to do. So without further ado, let me introduce Justin here. Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your event, and then we got some questions for you.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you having me today. As Ben mentioned, my name is Justin Courtney. I've been with SME almost 13 years in the exhibit sales and operations role. Our largest annual conference, which is the Mine Exchange Conference, typically has between 7,000 and 8,000 attendees and about 580 exhibiting companies. We look forward to partnering with Map Your Show every year and conducting our on-site sales process while at the current show for future events.
And and you do more than just that one show. You do have sales offices at a couple satellite or smaller events as well, too, correct?
We do, yes. So we also do a tunneling specific conference. That conference typically rotates between every year, and it is a biennial show. So it's the North American Tunneling Conference, and then in the off year it is the Rapid Excavation and Tunneling Conference. And so that show typically has about 1,500 attendees and 170 exhibitors. And we also host on-site sales for that conference. We also do a regional conference in Duluth, Minnesota, which is the SME Minnesota conference. And that event has about 1,000 attendees and 140 exhibitors. And that show, we do not do on-site sales. We do sales post-conference a few months after the event and do it through Teams, which is a different animal.
I bet it is. So, and your main conference, the Mine Exchange, it moves locations, correct? Tell us about the locations you guys are at.
It does, yeah. So it typically rotates between Denver, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City. Those are the three main cities we go to. We are in Denver every other year.
Yeah. So, obviously moving sites, selling booth space on the next year or where it's going to be offers its own challenges. I think we all know that. So, this is a really interesting question since you just mentioned it. You have shows that we sell on site in office during the show itself, but you have one that you sell on Teams. So explain a little bit about your difference in philosophy in selling those two shows.
Yeah, of course. We definitely prefer to sell on site. We're in the business of producing in-conference meetings, in-person meetings. And so having those meetings in person while we're at the current conference for future events, it seems to be really helpful for us. We typically have about 10 to 12 companies every 15 minutes. So it is a rather quick process. To kind of paint the picture a little bit, I'm usually standing up behind it with a giant floor plan, and I sell the space while we're on site. And once the exhibitor chooses their space, they move along in the process. And we usually have 4 reps from Map Your Show that come on site. So three of those representatives actually help do the contract process with our companies. And then we also have somebody that helps to sell our upgraded sponsorship packages through Map Your Show as well. So in total, we typically do about 500 plus companies over 2.5 days of sales.
And this is an on-the-floor sales office. So exhibitors aren't having to travel real far, correct, to get to it?
Correct. Yeah. So we have it's a 30 by 80 space that we put in the back of our exhibit hall. Our exhibitors are really there to conduct their business and sell their products and services. So we want to make this process as seamless and as quick as possible for them. So typically, every 15 minutes, we have about 10 to 12 companies that come in. We pretty much stay on pace with just them selecting space with myself before moving on in that process. And usually we can turn them in and out of that sales office in less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, you do a very good job at that. And what always amazes me when I'm there is when you close down for lunch and there's a line outside the door waiting at that plexiglass door just as soon as the lunch crowd ends. Now, tell us just briefly, how do you handle then the Minnesota conference since you're doing all that on Teams? I assume you're setting up appointment times. How's all that work?
Yep. So for the Minnesota conference, we do set up appointment times. We do one company every 10 minutes. And so that gives us a little bit more time. It's a little more personable, although we do prefer on-site sales. And then so for that conference, we only do about 150 companies, but it takes us 3 days having an appointment every 10 minutes. And, of course, you have companies that can't make certain times and want to jump in later. So we accommodate anything to help those companies select their space for the future.
Now, are you guys seeing any challenges ahead as the years come, changes in whether it's location? I don't know if any of those locations have any construction going on or is there any challenges that you're foreseeing for either one of those selection processes coming?
Not necessarily. Our on-site sales process is a pretty well-oiled machine. We feel with Map Your Show support there on site. It's always been a pretty smooth process for us and for our end users, which is the most important thing. We want to keep our exhibitors happy. One of the challenges that we do have with our events, I would say, are tunneling specific shows. We try and keep those shows in a hotel atmosphere versus moving to a larger space in a convention center. And so we like that it's a little bit more intimate in the hotel space, but our shows are starting to outgrow the exhibit hall and many hotels. So it is becoming a bit of a challenge to contract future hotels that would have a large enough space for all of our breakout sessions and for our exhibit hall.
Well, struggling with a growing attendance is a good problem, but I understand. Now, what do you guys do from a layout perspective? When you're starting to lay out your show floors, how do you start out? Do you use any preset layout kind of things? Do you work with a general service contractor? Where do you start from that floor plan construction?
So typically we contract out our venue 10 plus years in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge we've had the past couple of years is our shows has grown so much that we take up every little bit of space within the exhibit hall to the point where in 2025 in Denver, we don't even have a boneyard on our show floor. So we start out with a max fit floor plan. And from that max fit floor plan, we design certain things on our layout. So we have a lounge, we have restaurant areas where we serve our food and beverage. And then we also typically have our bar placements as well. We try and position our bars kind of on the outskirts in the back of the hall to help disperse traffic throughout our show floor.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also place what we call idea exchange stages. And what these are opportunities for typically either sponsors or first-year exhibitors to do like a 15-minute TED-style talk on that stage for our attendees, and then invite people back to their booth to learn more about their product or services.
Very cool. Now, let's talk a little bit about pricing and pricing strategy. How do you price out your booth space? Are there different zones that are priced differently but around these education things, or is it straight square footage rate all throughout the hall?
So we do a standard inline rate, and then we also do a corner booth rate. And so if, for example, if somebody wants a 10 by 20 and they want to choose one inline and one corner, we just combine those rates to create that 10 by 20 rate, depending on the location on the show floor. And that's been very successful for us. Previously, when over 10 years ago, we used to have a prime, premium, and standard rate. And then, really what happens is, because we also do a priority point sales process. And so all of our exhibitors who have been longtime exhibitors would just end up in that prime space, right? So to help encourage people and some of our anchors to also kind of not be right by the entrance, we changed to the corner and standard rate, and it's been quite successful for us.
Yeah, and I tell you, I can't tell you how much I like the simplicity of your rate structure. I know it's not available for everybody to do that, but there is some beauty in that. That's for sure, in a lot of ways. Um, do you guys do any kind of booth packages in your show? Like, can I buy a table and chairs and everything in my booth, or are you selling straight up booth space and all that's with the GS, with the general service contractor after that?
Yep. So we just sell the booth space. We don't do any packages. Main reason for that is, it gets a little bit dicey, where somebody wants a table and chairs, and somebody just wants a high boy in their booth, or somebody wants a
Mhm.
love seat. So we try and keep our booth cost as low as possible, and then they order their furnishings, carpet, and electric all through our general service contractor.
And this next question, I have a feeling the way you're telling me how your shows are going that you're not going to be able to answer half of it. So the question is about how do you manage overcrowding and underutilization? So underutilization, it sounds like it's not really a problem for you guys, but how do you have that balance of this is the hall and I can't crowd too much over here and we still need to get the food court in? How do you work that, or is that an ongoing process as the show moves?
It's definitely an ongoing process. We try and design our floor plan strategically to help the flow of traffic, and also by placing, having our anchors. And by anchors, I mean 20 by 20 or larger spaces. We have a lot of new companies that are going with a larger booth space. And so because it's a party point sales process, those newer companies do have to select booth space kind of towards the back of our exhibit hall, around the outskirts. And that really helps kind of disperse the traffic on our show floor. Around our idea exchange stages, we do have 20-foot aisles in that area, to kind of help keep the crowd noise down, and the session noise down for exhibitors that are nearby that area. But one of the benefits to exhibiting near that area is they also get the opportunity to solicit their paper to talk in those sessions.
Oh, okay, wonderful. And I should have mentioned this to everybody watching earlier. My apologies. If you do have any questions for Justin or I, please feel free to enter them in the chat here. And we are going to be having a raffle of such from Map Your Show for a really cool product after this. So whether it's a comment, whether it's a question, make sure you get those in. And if we don't get to your questions today, we'll reach out to you and get to them after the fact. Okay. Let's shift a little bit off booth space. Let's talk a little bit about sponsorship sales. Okay. And I guess what are some of your most effective ways to identify who you should be selling those sponsorships to?
Yeah. So, obviously we do concentrate on retention quite a bit. So it's our low hanging fruit. So if they've purchased a sponsorship in their package in the past, we're really trying and concentrating to sell them on that in the future. One of the ways we prospect for future sales and prospects, we prospect in industry related publications, to see what companies are currently spending, or have a large marketing budget, right? And that's helpful for us to kind of determine some of those prospects. We also utilize some of our other conferences as well, and competitor events, to see what they do and what they spend at those shows. So, for example, we look at like the CIM, the Canadian Institute of Mining Conference. It's an annual event. And then we also look at the Mine Expo conference. Mine Expo occurs every 4 years, but it kind of gives us a little bit of insight as to what companies are willing to spend.
And do you guys work off a sponsorship book, or do you have any sponsorships you work to create and help create some sponsorships for exhibitors and talk to them about that? Or is it a straight up, this is what we offer, this is what you can get?
So we have some sponsorships that are kind of clear cut and dry,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a partnership development manager here at SME, and her name is Emma Saldit. Emma Saldit
Mm-hmm.
does specialize in creating these packages that are kind of more company specific. So, for example, if their goal is to increase brand recognition, we help them provide and accomplish those goals through advertising, exhibiting, and sponsorship of current conferences. There's other companies that just have a main interest in our membership. So we have about 13,000 members of SME. And so we also tailor certain packages to companies that are more aligned in the technical information that we offer. So some of those packages include membership access with a combination of brand recognition at conferences. So we kind of are open to any custom sponsorship that a company is interested in putting together. We kind of listen to what their why is, right? So what is it that they want out of the package and the sponsorship that we can create, and then we go ahead and create that sponsorship to deliver it.
Yeah, that's key. Listening to what they need is really a big thing there. Um, we got a couple questions here as we're going through, and one of them is what are the common questions that you get as a potential exhibitor looking for a booth space walks up into your sales office? What kind of questions are they asking you while you're standing up there at the big board?
Yeah, so the three main questions I would say: where's the entrance? Where's the food and beverage? And then in our industry, it's where's the men's restroom? So at our conference, our attendees, I'd say, are probably 80% male, and so a lot of times they want to know where the men's restroom is. It's a weird question, but they're also trying to figure out the flow of traffic within the floor plan.
Well, though you obviously know your exhibitors, and I mean, know them well for that. It's funny because we do some things where we look at keyword searches in our systems throughout, and it's always interesting when you see shows and restroom is at the top of the keyword search on this. Now, I digress. Now, do you see any trends in technology? Someone is asking here if we're seeing anything coming in the way of selling booth space or sponsorships in the future that you think is something that you might be able to grasp on and utilize.
I think what we're trying to do is we really like the on-site sales aspect of the shows that we currently utilize that for. So for our Minnesota conference, where we currently aren't prepared to do on-site sales, we're trying to implement that in the future. It's really a big benefit for our exhibitors. They can secure a space while they're right there at the event and already thinking about the future. We don't require them to put a deposit down, so they can secure the best location possible based on their priority points and the time that they get to choose space. And so we really kind of see, although we're successful with the selling space through Microsoft Teams and going that route, we would like to implement the on-site sales aspect to that conference. We see that it's a lot easier on the exhibitor. It's easier from us from a sales standpoint when you can kind of come back from an event and 70% of your floor plan for the following year is already sold.
And that brings another question I have to you is, on your larger event, what is your typical percentage that you're shooting for to sell on site?
So our goal has historically always been 70%. This past year, we actually sold over 80% of our floor plan while on site. A lot of that is just due to more education. We're trying to help our exhibitors and our new companies. So we get about 100 new companies every year, and it's really educating them about the opportunity that's available to secure space for next year's event without any money down. And so that opportunity and that communication that we've been sending has really been helping us to increase our sales for during on-site sales for the future show.
No, that's really interesting, and that's key for a lot of shows that have that turnover year to year. Well, that's all we got in the questions for right now. And Justin, I really appreciate your time today and all the knowledge that you've given us. I would encourage anyone who has any questions to please reach out to Map Your Show. And if you have anything direct with Justin, I work with Justin all the time, so I might be able to put you in touch with this gentleman right here. But he's a great resource. They do a spectacular event, and we thank you for all your support and telling us what you do from a day-to-day at your events on Selling Space.
Well, thank you. I appreciate our partnership, and always look forward to seeing your team at our events.
Thank you, Justin. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.